How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. Obviously, we've seen tons of prepping channels, myself included, talk about all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world right now and all the stuff that could potentially happen. And I think, at least in my opinion, I like to periodically try to make specific predictions about what I think is going to happen for a couple reasons. First of all, I think a lot of people don't do this. They don't get on the record with anything specific on purpose because they're worried that, or they just know that, you know, if they are one of these channels or commentators that have that shtick of just always dooming and glooming, there's nothing to hold them to account. You know, there's no accountability to the stuff that they're saying. They just be very generalization or use big generalizations. So I like to hold myself to account, and also it helps refine my models for how the world's working, what's actually going on. If I have a video, you know, it's easy to not, things that happened like a week ago feel like they were months ago. Stuff that happened 2 years ago feels like it was a decade ago. So it's very easy to get in this mode and forget how strongly you felt something or thought about something, or how different what you view now is from what you viewed even 6 months ago. So I like to get on the record just for myself to see, you know, what I thought at a certain time, and then look back and say, okay, was I right or wrong? If I was right, then I know I'm kind of going in the right, at least in the right direction. If I was wrong, I'd like to try and find out why I might have been wrong, and if I had either just bad information, if some black swan happened, or if I had assumptions and data about something that turned out to be incorrect. And if that's the case, then I gotta go and revisit that, either try to find a better source of information or revisit these assumptions that caused me to use that information to come to that conclusion. And that's the most important part, because then as you slowly refine that, either your assumptions and your data sources, you'll be able to actually become more accurate in determining what's going to happen in the future, at least in a general sense. And that's what prepping is all about. Beyond the generics, you know, the commonality of survival, all the things that we always know we're going to need, like food and water, when it comes to economic and geopolitical stuff, the direction that these kind of collapses and shit the fans take can make a big difference in what specifically you would need to do to be best prepared, and not just to survive it, but to flourish. So this video is going to be a few specific things that I think are going to happen over the next 18 months to 2 years, and we'll see how this pans out. First one's with regards to the markets. I think that the US economy in general, I think that the Fed will continue to tighten, to raise rates until we see a significant stock market crash of at least 25%. So I think we'll see continued tightening, and I think we'll see a general market crash of at least 25% in the major indices within the next 2 years. I think it'll probably happen sooner than that, but like I said, timeframes have never been my best aspect. I tend to think things are going to happen much sooner than they do. Things can be a lot more drawn out in real life. So I do think we'll see continued tightening until there's a significant market crash of at least 25% in like the S&P and the Dow, whatever. I do think that could happen as early as this fall, but it won't necessarily happen. But I do think it'll certainly happen within the next 18 months to 2 years. I think along with that, we'll also see a real estate prices collapse of it, also again at least 25% off their highs of the middle of this year, and that'll go along with the general market, you know, correction, if you want to call it that. Although I do think rates will continue to go up, if not at least hold steady. So you're not going to get better rates on mortgages; it'll probably get higher, and it'll be harder to get loans. So while it might seem like a good thing that prices come down on real estate, and it is in certain situations, you know, better than them being more expensive, the ability to buy these houses is going to become more difficult. The payment that you'll have to make when you do buy it is going to be more. You know, I was running the numbers the other day, or saw someone else do it, and you know, with the way the rates are now, you can get you have the same monthly payment with a $350,000 house as you did with a $500,000 house a year or two ago. It's pretty significant. So if we get up to 7-8%, it gets even worse. People, even if the prices come down, they're not even going to be able to afford the payments on $250,000 houses, or barely be able to. So they won't, you know, they'd have to come down a lot. And if you combine that with general market turmoil and people's assets are becoming worth less, then you can see how it's going to get ugly. Along with that, rents will continue to go up, if not hold steady as well. So just because the houses don't go down in price, like I said, it's going to be just as hard, if not harder, to buy them. So people continue to need to rent. So rents will at least not get any cheaper. They'll probably continue to go up, especially as we see other things become more expensive. The war will continue to expand in Europe/Asia. The one thing I don't think will happen is I am going on the record that I do not think we will have a nuclear exchange within the next 18 months to 2 years. even tactical nukes. I certainly hope that pans out. It certainly is obviously possible. And, you know, it's obviously worth preparing for because the preparations are not that expensive compared to the cost if you're not prepared, if there is some sort of even limited nuclear exchange. But I do not think that nukes will fly, even tactical nukes will be used. But I do think it's likely that China gets involved in a significant way. I think that's going to happen at some point with either Taiwan or direct assistance with Russia, whatever. So I think the conflict with NATO and Russia will expand. I think China will get involved. I do not think there will be any nuclear explosions. That's my predictions for that theater within the next 18 months to 2 years. The side effects of that, specifically China getting involved, is I think it will cause disastrous price increases for everything in the US. Medicine, especially. I've talked about Jase Medical and how you can get antibiotics through them. Link will be in the description. I definitely recommend that. It's like $200, and it would be such a disaster. 90% of the generic antibiotics are made in China, so if we go to any sort of trade war or even actual war with them, that stuff's going to get ground to a halt. Computer chips, obviously, from Taiwan. Any sort of plastic crap that we all use on a day-to-day basis, so make sure you have all that stuff ready to go. Anything you use on a normal day-to-day basis, buy it now because it's going to get more expensive and it's going to get supply is going to be an issue. So there you have it, guys. Those are my specific predictions for what I think is going to happen for the next 18 months to 2 years. I think we'll see rates continue to go up for a little bit. Then we'll see either just because of the slowdown in the economy or maybe directly related to the conflicts overseas, whichever comes first. We'll see a broad market correction / crash of at least 25%, at which point, at some point after that, depends on when within the 2 years this crash happens, the Fed will reverse, probably pretty quickly, reverse their policy and try to juice the market, which will cause a general type of, you know, melt up / hyperinflation. We're going to see the housing market also experience this correction of 25% at least. Rents will continue to go up if not stay stable. Rates on mortgages at least will probably continue to go up, and prices and houses will be harder to get loans for. War will expand. Don't think we'll have any nuclear exchange. But we will experience an expanded conflict, maybe general mobilization from Russia, and in some capacity China will get involved. And might be through Taiwan, might be through helping Russia, whatever. Food will become more expensive and harder to get, and lots of imports are going to become harder to get and a lot more expensive. So what can you do to be prepared for this? Like I said, I mentioned Jase, Mira Safety for getting ready for that nuclear possibility, even though I don't think it will happen, thank God. If you're in Europe, it's much more of a necessity, because if there is any nuclear exchange, it's almost certainly going to be, at least first, in Europe somewhere or Asia. And get your food squared away, have a means of cooking it. I recommend the Sun Oven as always, and then have some sort of, you know, main or backup fuel related food cooking source like propane, wood stove if you have enough wood, and get a water filter, and that's all your bases. And then just your general, you know, preparedness. And I'd like to, I'll probably make a future video about this as well, but I really would like people to send me rulethewasteland@gmail.com some point within the next week or two. I'd like to keep track of what other people are saying, specific predictions. So of other YouTubers, commentators, news figures, whatever, send me their predictions for the next 2 years. But it has to be an actual prediction. So it has to either have a specific figure within a general time frame, or like a benchmark, or a specific time frame with a general prediction. So for example, it has to say either like within the next within the next 2 years, the housing market will go down by 25%. So that's a specific figure, 25% within a general time frame. Or it has to be a prediction of a very specific time frame, like in September, the market will experience a serious correction. So the amount is malleable, but the time frame isn't. So, but it has to have both a time frame and a prediction. One of them can be general, because otherwise it's too hard to there's no way to find out if it's happened or not happened. It's not falsifiable. So I want falsifiable predictions for the next 2 years. Not to blast people, like I said. I mean, if they're a real shammer, fearmonger, whatever, they're just throwing out constant fear predictions, it's very helpful to be able to find out who these people are. I'm going to make an actual spreadsheet of the person, myself included, what their specific predictions are for time frame. That way, not only can we find out who has good information and good insights, we can find out who's full of shit, and then once we narrow down who is pretty good, pretty good prognosticator for these times that we're in, then we can look more closely at what they're doing and use their specific insights and ignore some of the noise from the people who've got nothing right. Because I think on the YouTube space, it's very easy for people to constantly put out videos and just be completely wrong on very specific, falsifiable predictions, and then just come back months later and everyone's just forgotten about it. Like these guys that just always come up with, like, even guys that I really, in general, like their content, like a Robert Kiyosaki, he's come out with very specific predictions a lot about, like, there will be a crash X months. Like, there's a handful of guys that have predicted 150 of the last 3 market corrections, as they say. So I'd like to really figure out, like, who do we need to pay attention to and who should we ignore because they're just either the bull who cries wolf, or they're just wrong, or they're just scammers, or they just don't have good info or good insight into this particular situation. So send me specific predictions that people have for the next 2 years only. If it's out past 2 years, I'm not interested in it for right now. And I will make a spreadsheet on that for the next month or so, and then I'll post it on the RuleTheWastelandblog.com when I get it finished, so people can look, see what may be coming up, see what people have a horrible track record and what people have a really good track record. I think that'd be really interesting. So thanks for watching, guys. Check the links in the description to help you get prepared, and I'll talk to you guys soon.